This I don't think this world is actually synchronizing floor build. I think something funny is going on here. Yeah. So we'll just try doing all this again. So I like the idea of streaming at the same time every day, probably having a schedule of some kind. But it has a cost as well. So we'll just see how that works out. At some point soon, we probably want to diverge off into other tasks rather than programming so much. Here's a game with its biped position. So if I move the cursors, you can see that this is rotating the player in the console. Nothing's happening here. So the one that you see here is like a client-side version of the player. And you can move him with the cursor keys, but doesn't respect the facing of the player when moving. So no matter which way I move it, the facing's on axis. So in this game, you've got spaceships and factories. We can build floors like so to extend the area of the ship. You can build, say, for instance, a scoop and some conveyors. And at the moment, the scoop is always creating gold. And there's a refinery that automatically refines gold, and you can drive that gold into a container. It comes out as gold and slag. Later on we'll be able to separate those, put them into a container, which is currently this yellow mesh. I need to make it less ugly. It's, it's like a placeholder, but it's been in the game for a while now. It's almost a signature ugly yellow box. It's going to look kind of weird when that's finally actually fixed. I have to do that at some point. So that's the game as it stands. If I hover over one of these things, like this box, I should see that it's got slag and gold in it. You can see in the writing that's in the... I can't move the cursor to show you, but you can see that the amount of slag and gold is changing every time I move my cursor over it. And that updates what's being written. Okay, so the first task is to take these numbers that are being output on the screen there and tell Godot where to place the human. Yeah, let me put this tea bag in the bin. Now, the human's going to be a child in the century of the ship itself. We're going to want it to be in the right place. It's not certain if we want to make it its own node. I'm not sure what events I want to put out, or if I want to just reach inside the sector and copy it every frame. So let's just go with the simplest option, which is that I use a statically named node of some kind. I guess I have to hold a reference to it. I'm not sure I can hold a reference long term to the path of a node. I can do it in script, but I don't think I can do it in Rust reliably. Yeah.